great. Actually, that was one of my next questions is how do new clients initially find you? And of course, when you're talking about a client coach relationship, there has to be probably a period of time and a lot of trust built up over that time. It sounds like your newsletter and your writings is the first exposure that like a new client would get to meeting you,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely, but most recently, I've been getting a lot of referrals from
Mm-hmm.
prior clients. So there's a trust factor there, which is wonderful. When I pick up the
Mm-hmm.
phone and they'll tell me, oh, I'm calling you because of so and so that
Yeah.
you coached, or even if I haven't coached them, they just happen to know me through the newsletter, which is that's even more fun. Like if it's just someone who's been reading my writing for years and refers a
Mm-hmm.
friend to who's looking for a coach. And
Right.
and the other is I'm taking on some bigger clients. I'm working with companies right now that are a little lot larger than just the small businesses, and
Uh-huh.
coaching executives inside those organizations, particularly new executives as they ascend and take on new leadership roles within an organization. And I'm doing that kind of in partnership with a friend who runs an agency
Okay.
and does a lot of training. So I'm a referral. He refers them to me basically.
Got it. Got it. And in those situations, so on like the larger organization side
Mhm.
of your work, is it is your engagement with the
It
organization
is.
and then they assign you to their people,
Yeah.
or is it like individual people who want to kind of work privately to ascend up the ladder, if
I've
you will?
done both. So the one client I was referring to earlier was an individual coming to me. They had read my newsletter for years, and they operate inside a very large organization, and they
Mm-hmm.
were, and oversee a department, and they were looking to kind of ascend
Yeah.
uh, through their organization. So that was an individual paid by them directly, and but the newer clients, I'm actually coaching seven individuals inside this organization
Mm-hmm.
who've all been recently promoted to new roles, and so there's a sort of change going on in this organization, and
Interesting.
that's been really really fun as well because it gets into you start to understand the culture of this organization
Uh-huh.
a lot more just through the lens of those people. And I am hired by the organization, but obviously all of those conversations are, you know, private, and I don't share any individual information. But what I do share with the owners is kind of themes that I see coming up that are common across the board to say this is something that
Mm-hmm.
I think you should pay attention to, and so uh, that can turn into additional, coaching actually with the owners to think about
Yeah.
what how do we address those things.
Super interesting. It must be it almost feels like a completely different practice and approach to coaching than on like individual small business situations. But then at the same time, there must be human elements that are just true across the
It
board
is
with everyone,
always
right?
that, and I was talking to another friend who recently who has worked with hundreds of organizations worldwide. She specializes in remote work and distributed workforces and has for 20 plus years. Wrote a book on it, and her, we were talking about the fact that a lot of these organizations feel like they're very special because the industry is so unique or the culture is so unique, but
Mm-hmm.
really yeah, there's a language to learn. There's shorthand that you have to, get on board with. There's certain operational procedures that you have to understand. But that's easy to get up to speed on. And then it's the human stuff that is all that's the messy stuff.
Hey, just a quick break to tell you about Clarityflow. It's the software tool loved by coaches and their clients for communicating asynchronously in threaded conversations using video, audio, or text. My team and I designed Clarityflow for the modern day coach. It lets you give clients a single place to engage with you and all that you offer through your coaching business. Run coaching groups, cohorts, and communities using our Spaces feature. Create interactive courses using our Programs feature. Build your coaching library with templates and reusable content. And sell access to your coaching programs with subscriptions or one time payments. Customize colors and connect your domain to give clients a fully branded experience. You can use Clarityflow on the web or our mobile apps for iPhone, iPad, or Android, and connect any other apps using our Zapier integration. Start with a free trial or request a personalized demo and consultation by going to clarityflow.com. Is this sort of a new trend in like larger companies, larger organizations investing in coaching for their employees?
I hope
Or
so.
is that
I hope so.
yeah.
I do think coaching is seeing a bit of an uptick. I don't want to say renaissance, really. I mean, that feels like an overstatement, but there's an
Mhm.
uptick in understanding its value. I've actually been working with another organization that's very carefully building an executive coaching, and training component to all of their new
Mhm.
hires. They're in heavy acquisition mode, so there has to be this, how do we get people on board with the new culture, and how do we train people and support people, and so they're taking their time with this, and executive coaching will be a big part of it.
Interesting. Yeah, and I guess also as you said, you sort of touched on it, it's also a way for the organization and the leaders to a way for them to listen to their people, especially as their teams are growing exponentially, without having like the maybe direct boss employee relationship, and having more of a like there's like a level of privacy between the coach and
Yes,
executives, but you're still sharing themes and some and what's happening in the organization.
absolutely. And that becomes harder if you're just hired to work with one person, because then one, you can't verify that it's a common theme as a
Hmm.
coach, and also the sharing, it's kind of obvious who it's coming from. So
Yeah.
so that becomes a little trickier. But I also think that there is, again, too early to say it's a trend, but there's the beginnings of acknowledgement that the type of leadership that's required has to include a coaching mindset to some degree, to a strong degree, I
Hmm.
believe, and to think about how do you even create this space for that kind of meeting with the people that you're supervising, where they can come in and reflect on what they did that week, what's going on for them, and help them make choices, anchored in what they do well, anchored in their strengths,
Yeah.
helping them make better decisions and growing. The challenge is the time. It's always the time. Everyone, you really have to commit to, if someone's supervising 10 people, that's a lot of hours of
Hmm.
support that, but I think in the context of the regular meetings that people have, they can find the time to shift it from just report outs to, how can I coach this person?
Yeah.